What's up, guys? So today we're doing phishing emails. I know this one may seem kind of elementary or like common sense, but it's really not, and that's why I want to cover it. There's a whole path on here that I'm going to start. It's only like 5 or 6 boxes. It should be pretty quick, but I do want to cover it because I think it's very underrated how important it is. People think like everybody thinks like, oh, I would never click on that. I'd never do that. But I can promise you, I can get you to click on something if you give me enough time to learn about you. Okay, so it's very important that you understand phishing emails, number one, obviously, but you also understand how to detect them and how to break them down to see basically what you're looking for. So, first things first, we'll go ahead and exit split view and let that go for a minute because we don't need it for a few tasks. So, here we go. Spam and phishing are common social engineering attacks. We're going to cover what they are and that type of stuff. So here we go. Let's get into it. I don't usually read the introduction. You guys can if you want. All right, so it's telling us here that in 1970s, that's when it was invented. Ray Tomlinson invented the @ symbol, okay? This is all stuff that no one cares about, right? Like, it sounds awesome. It's good to know his name just because he did something incredible, I guess. Whatever, cool. Let's move past that. So now, what makes up an email address? Okay, so here's where we start diving in. So the user mailbox or username is your first part, right? That's where you're going to say like stuffy at, then you have the @ sign, and then the domain. So at yahoo.com or whatever. That is a domain. So that means someone controls that domain. So whoever you're emailing is the owner of that, or whoever's email you're using, excuse me. So like if I'm at Yahoo, I'm using Yahoo's email. That's their domain. They own that. So theoretically, they can do whatever they want with my email box, okay? Now, most of you are familiar with that. You're going to be using it for work and stuff like that, right? They simplified even more to what street you live on, so on and so forth. I think you guys get the concept of an email address. Email dates back to what time frame? 1970s. They told us right here. Perfect. Let's keep moving. Here's where you start diving in a little bit deeper and start getting into the bread and butter of it. So how does it work, right? So these are the 3 protocols that most of us use. So what you do here is the SMTP. It's utilized to handle the sending of the emails, and we're going to show that. And then POP3 and IMAP, you notice, have the same exact answer or same exact definition. Excuse me. But there is a difference between them. So here's the difference. So the big difference is POP3, emails are downloaded onto your computer, onto whatever you're using, whether it's a phone or a computer or whatever. So therefore, if you're using POP3 and you don't have it selected where you have it stay on the server, it's going to delete those as soon as you download them because it thinks you've got your message, you're good, let's get rid of it. Now there's advantages and disadvantages to this, obviously. So the advantage would be anonymity, right? So if depending on how long they keep their logs, that type of stuff. But if I was to be emailing you something, for instance, when Snowden was emailing reporters, right? He was using encrypted email, obviously, for one. But for two, I don't know this for sure, but I would assume he's using an email server that's using POP3. So that way, the second he sends that email to them and they actually download it, it's deleted off there. Nobody can go recover it and try to, get it back. Or, I mean, not try to get it back, but try to decrypt it. IMAP is different. It's stored on the server, and you can download it anywhere. That's what you're going to see with, like, Yahoo, Gmail, those things. The reason you're going to see that is because you're using all these different devices, and so it's not going to delete it the second it's done, and you just had it on that one computer. You're going to have to, or they're going to have to keep it so you can download it on multiple devices so you can use it on your work computer, your phone, whatever. All right. So here's how it works. You guys can see that basically you have Alexa at janedoe.com. She sends her email to SMTP server, which if you see here, the SMTP, it's utilized to handle sending of emails. So that's what they're doing. They're sending it. So they send it to the SMTP server. It's going to reach out to the DNS server to look for the target wherever you're trying to send the email, the address. Okay, and then it's going to send it back to the SMTP server with the proper IP address, most likely, depending if it's in there. and then it's going to send it out, right? And then you're going to hit firewall, the internet, firewall, boom. Then you're going to get back to their SMTP server, and as soon as it hits theirs, it's going to notice, hey, this is an incoming email, so let's send it to our POP3 or our IMAP server, and they will give it to the client, whatever they want to do. And then depending on if you are using POP3 or IMAP, it will depend on if you're keeping it or not for the server. Okay, so make sure you guys are familiar with this. This is an important thing that you understand. Because it will, anything in any IT position you ever have will probably help you to understand that process, okay? So below is an explanation of each numbered point. So you can read that if you want. I explained it in layman's terms. This will tell you a little bit more. So now they ask you what port is classified as secure SMTP. I'll just let you guys know. They just want you to research these. You can probably find it here. I don't know. But basically, secure SMTP is 465, secure IMAP is 993, and then secure transport for POP3 is 995. Now there are alternative ports that you can use, so make sure those are the answers they want. So you may have to try a couple if they give you alternatives when you do some research. All right, so now we're on to email headers. This is the big one. This is where you're going to start noticing stuff. So email headers, well, we're on the email headers and bodies. Let me pull up my notes here. Got it. Okay, so we got the email headers. So here it's giving you examples, but basically what it's showing you is what you're going to see in the header, right? You're going to see who it's from, the subject, the date, when it was sent, and who it was sent to, okay? Now this is where you start getting into the security aspect of it, because, well, yes, this is great, and it looks great, right? Like I can read an email, you can read an email and say, this is from John, this is from whatever. It doesn't mean that's actually who it's from, okay? And that's where this box comes into play. So you can see here, if you view the raw message, it's going to say this is who it's to, whatever, and then here's who it's from. But it's also going to give you the IP address where it came from, okay? So you're going to see if it's actually from that person or not. That's the big one right there, okay? So you can go here. So first things first, I guess, let's dive in. It says X originating IP. So this is the IP address that the email was sent from. So if you go up here, you'll see it. I know I saw it. There it is, X originating IP. That's where it originated from, meaning that's the address that it actually came from. The reason that's important is because let's say it's saying, hey, I'm Amazon.com, and then you look up this, and you can see here, they give you a website here to look it up for, I believe. Let me look. Looks like they actually give it to us on the next one, which is fine. So let's say you actually get this, and it says from Amazon.com, and you look up the IP address, and the IP address is owned by someone, I don't know, suspicious.com, right? You're gonna know, hey, maybe I shouldn't trust this person. This isn't real, right? So that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. You're looking for something that's doesn't jive, basically. So now the header, the from to, or the SMTP mail from and header from. This is the domain the email was sent from. So this is going to tell you here, if we find it up here. And I know it's up here. There it is right there. SMTP mail from is ankitech.com. So that's the domain it's coming from. So that's important too, because again, if it says it's from yahoo.com and you go up here and it's from a different domain, it's probably not really them, right? Keep in mind that some companies do own subdomains, so sometimes it will come from something that may not make sense to you, but if you do a little research, you'll find out that they are a legit subdomain. So reply to, this is the email that it's actually going to reply to. So what this means is, let's say you get an email from support@yahoo.com, right? You're trying to reset your password or something. The reply to is a different email. The reason for that is because they do not want you filling up their emails for support@yahoo.com because it's such a broad one. So they may have a specific mailbox that they then will take it, and when you reply, it goes to a specific mailbox. This is pretty common. The main reason, again, is let's say you put a support ticket in for Yahoo. They don't want you to be able, that email probably is automated, and the second you send an email, it just goes and puts a ticket in for them to look at, and then just sends you a reply that says, we're looking into it, or whatever, right? They don't want you just emailing that back because that's an unmonitored email address. That thing is just used for sending out automatic emails. So they will have a reply to, and this will be a different email address that then they will actually monitor that inbox, okay? All right, so now below is an additional resource for Media Temple on how to analyze email headers. So if you want to analyze it a little bit more, read into that. It's very good to do. And then here you go. In this actual article here is these answers. So what email header is the same as reply to, and that is return path. Once you find the sender's email address, where can you retrieve information about the IP? And that's aaron.net. So if you get an email and you're not sure, you can look at the originating IP, which you can see here is X originating IP. And then you can look in aaron.net and see who owns it, that type of stuff. What is the information you need about that IP, right? So it'll give you some of that and tell you pretty much if it's legit or not. You can tell pretty quick. All right. So, but the big thing here is this is all on the back end, so you're looking at all this. But if you actually render the email, so if you look at it with not looking at the raw data, if you just look at like right here, that help protect your budget, blah, 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 those might not add up the same as the raw data. The raw data will have the real answers, but over here it might say ADT security services like that. But if you look, it's actually not that. It's Enki Tech, right? So they could be easily spoofing is what I'm getting at. All right. So let's scroll up. Here we go. So now the body. Body, very similar. It's the text portion of it. A lot of times there'll be HTML formatted emails, and a lot of companies nowadays have it where it's not going to load images automatically and stuff like that. Some don't, right? So if you don't, you probably should. You should have it where it shows the actual hypertext. You should have it where it doesn't load images automatically, that type of stuff. This is just security features that should be automated. You don't have to worry too much about that if you're using like a Gmail or something, because they have security protocols in place. But you definitely don't want to start clicking on, these links and stuff like that, because that's where you get into trouble. So here, if you look at the source code for it, you can see right here, this is the image they're using to show you. You have a new write-up submission. So if we look here, it says go to tryhackme. And you can see here's where they did it, where it says, if you know how to read HTML, it's pretty simple. This is a ref, anchor, and then the reference, HTTP tryhackme. So we can see here, if we clicked on the go to tryhackme, it is going to take us to tryhackme.com. But they could easily have this say, go to tryhackme, and then when you click on it, it says something totally different. It's gotchu.com or whatever the case is, right? So keep that in mind. You want to look at the source code. Now mind you, this is only if you're suspicious about an email. I wouldn't do this on every single email you ever get, because you would never get through an email. But if you're suspicious, this is how I can identify a fake spoofing email, and then you can alert your company that this campaign is happening. So again, we're diving into it. We've got this. We've figured out that the actual anchor is correct, meaning that it is going to take us to tryhackme.com. Cool. So we move past. Now here's the big one, the attachments. The attachments are the most dangerous portion of a email, because that attachment could have anything in it and you don't know it until you download it. But what you can do is this is a PDF document, you can view it within the source code. Now it warns you here, and it reiterates it later. Be very careful when doing this, because sometimes you go to click on something and you accidentally double click it. If you accidentally double click it, it's going to download that file, and now you have that file on your computer. That's a problem. So what you're going to do is view the attachment's source code. And when you do that, you can see here all the source code. This is all base 64 encoded, but you can then take that base 64 encoding. You can actually use something like CyberChef or whatever, and you can decode it. And when you decode it, you're going to see what the actual file is trying to do, right? And that will tell you, can I use this file or can I not? So let's go ahead and start doing that. So in the above screenshots, what is the URI of the blocked image? And if you look up here, boom, 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 this is the blocked image right here. We're looking for the URI of it, and you can see right here, it's the logo. And the reason we know that's the actual one is because it says image class logo versus the href, which is a anchor. So what that means is in HTML, this is referencing an image with the img versus this is referencing a URL. Okay, I'm sure that you could probably look at it and guess that, but just to make sure you guys understand. Now in the above screenshots, what's the name of the PDF attachments? And you could look right here, payment up. Okay, so it doesn't tell you the whole thing there, but if you go up here, the attachments, let's see where we can find it. It's in here. Okay, it's right here. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong screenshot. So payment update ID.pdf. This is all they're asking us for is the actual file name. So now let's go into split view. Come on. And let's try and find this actual flag. So in it, we're going to view the information. So here's the samples of the emails. Boom. So we're going to look at email 2. Now we can see here, we've got a lot of information here, but the majority of it is just this file, right? This is the PDF file, but it's base64 encoded. So what we need to do, maybe, Jesus, it's taking forever to go scroll down here. I could just Control A all of it, which I'll probably do here because I don't want to wait. So file, new. And you don't have to select a new one. We're going to paste it here, right? What we're going to do is we want just the base 64 so we can get rid of all this because we don't care about that. We don't need the header. All right. And then at the bottom, keep in mind it's always going to end like this with this line right here. Not the same line. I'm just saying there's going to be that line there. All right. So we've got that. We're going to save it. And we'll just save it as decoded, whatever. Decoded is fine. Okay, so now it's not decoded yet, but we're going to try and get to it that way, okay? So now we've got that. Boom, boom. We'll leave that up if we want it. Doesn't matter. So now we can go ahead and exit that. We're going to go ahead and say open terminal here because we want to use the terminal, right? So now we're in the samples. If we hit LS, we can see that we do have the decoded in there. All right, so now let's go ahead and look. All right, so I was trying to see if they gave an example of it, but this is the closest they get. So now here, it's base64 encoded, so we could use CyberChef to decode it, but also an easier way would be just using your actual one here. So we're going to cat decode, right? And then we're going to say pipe that into, we want base64, tac D for decode, and then we're going to put it into a new file called decoded, and we're going to say .pdf because we need it to be a PDF file. All right, so then we hit LS, and there it is. It's PDF. So if we open this back up, we should see the PDF. Now, if you don't name it .pdf, you'll have to specify what you want to open it with because you need to open this with a PDF or else you're just going to get the decoded information. But if you open it as a PDF file, I can't tell if I actually clicked it or not. Okay, I think I did. We'll see if it opens. But now that we've decoded it, and keep in mind we've only decoded the actual encoded information. We didn't decode. You don't want to decode the rest of it. Okay, it did open. All right, so there's our flag right there. THM, benign PDF attachment. So you notice it popped up and now it works because we decoded the attachment. Now, if we just look back at the regular thing, all this other information, if you don't take this stuff out, it's not going to understand because it's going to try and decode the whole thing and it's going to mix up the bits and it's not going to work. So keep that in mind. You do have to decode just the actual attachment itself. So let's move on to the next one. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It's pretty simple. This is the actual attachment, but it's encoded. Pretty common. You then decode it and get the real message. Now, if you were to decode this, I wouldn't open it necessarily on my computer. I would see what the decoded text is first, just in case. But keep in mind that if you decode it, you can see what it's actually trying to do. All right, so now here's spam phishing, spear phishing, whaling, smishing, phishing. Okay, so it's very important that you guys understand the differences here, because yes, while they all are a form of spam slash phishing, they are different, and I noticed these get mixed up a lot. So spam, unsolicited junk emails sent out in bulk. The more malicious variants are known as mal spam. This is true, but spam, the majority of it, spam is just, you get emails every day that probably say, hey, we got a deal for you. They're not necessarily trying to hack you. They're probably trying to scam you. There's a difference, right? So they're probably not super worried about, maybe some of them probably are trying to get a hold of your credentials or something like that, but a lot of them are probably just scams, meaning like, oh, we have this deal for you, and we got a new golf club that costs $200, but we're selling it to you for $10, right? You give them $10, they give you some shit golf club that's not really what they say. Scamming, right? Now, phishing's different. Phishing is sent to targets purporting to be from a trusted entity to lure individuals into providing sensitive data. So phishing versus spam, right? Spam isn't pretending to be some trusted thing. They're saying, basically, we just have a great deal for you, or we have this for you, blah, 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 blah. They're not pretending to be tailor-made if you're into golf or whatever. They're just saying we have this whatever for you. Now, phishing, they're going to very much try and trick you. They're going to try and pretend to be someone to get you into giving them something, information, not money necessarily. Now, sometimes some people might ask for money, stuff like that. So these can kind of be interchangeable, but understand there is a difference. But yeah, it's just kind of what you want to call it now. They've broken it down. Now, spear phishing is different. Spear phishing takes on specific individuals. So they might send it to a CEO, or I'm sorry, that's whaling. Spear phishing might send it to, like, let's say they know you have a system administrator at your company, and they know they have an admin account. So they might target them to try and get an admin account first. That's the big difference between spear phishing. Whaling, on the other hand, is going for like the big cheese. It's going for the CEO, CFO, so on and so forth. And it's targeting them specifically. It will use things like class action lawsuit and stuff like that in the headers, so that way they have to look at it because they're nervous, whatever. Smishing, just different. It's using mobile devices, targeting mobile people, so basically texting and stuff like that. Phishing, it's the same, just using text messages. Or instead of using text messages, they're using voice calls. You probably get these all the time, where you get a call, oh, we want to talk to you about your car's extended warranty, whatever, right? That's what this is. All right, so now let's go ahead and exit this one. We're going to open up, it's telling us here to open up email 3. So now there's two ways you can open this. You can open it like this to get the text, right? But since they're asking a lot of different things, we're going to go ahead and open it in an email too, because you got to think about it. You're not going to be harmed by opening this email necessarily if you have proper things in place. You can give information if the email has read receipts and stuff like that, but realistically, you're not going to be harmed by opening the email. You're going to be more harmed by clicking something in the email, okay? So we'll go ahead, open it. There it is, Thunderbird email. And we just want to take a look at it, right? I'm sure many of you have opened emails and been like, oh, this is a phishing, this is spam, this is whatever. Get rid of it, right? That's not necessarily harmful. It's when you actually click something in it, that's when you start getting into trouble. So here, this is the final task, basically. But it says, what trusted entity is this email masquerading as? And you can see here, so it actually blocked some content, and most email providers will do that. But you can see here, it says right here, thank you, Home Depot. So, okay, cool. So they're masquerading as Home Depot. But you can see right here, it says support@techb.com. So clearly they're not actually Home Depot. Right off the bat, that's a red flag, right? But you could do some research and find out that maybe Home Depot owns techb.com. And that happens. That stuff happens where they have subdomains. So now what is the sender's email? There it is, support@techb.com. What is the subject line? Subject line right there, order placed, your order ID placed successfully. Boom. Now it says, what is the URL link? And it tells us to use the defanged URL. Now, I don't know if they covered defanging. They do right here just a little bit. But what defanging is taking a URL and making it non-malicious so that you can analyze it. And I'll show you what I mean by that. It's so that someone doesn't accidentally click on it. That thing, you can actually work with it without messing with it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this click here and we're going to copy the location because we don't want to click on it. This is why you got to be careful, okay? And this is why you defang URLs. And some policies might defang them automatically, but this doesn't. So CyberChef is built into this box. So you open up CyberChef. If you're not familiar with CyberChef, it's just a way to decode things. We'll put the input here, and we're going to actually look for defanging. And you can see defang URL. You put it as the recipe. You hit bake. There it is. And you guys will notice, watch this. I figured out how to copy and paste. It only took me 150 videos. All right, and then copy, and then you'll paste it here, and that's it. But you have to understand what defanging is. So you can see here, it takes the HTTP and it changes to XXP. It'll do the same with FTP, that type of thing. It'll change it to an X. The reason it does this is so that your computer will not read this as a clickable link. Then it puts them in brackets, the periods, so that way your computer doesn't click it, that type of thing. So what it's doing is it's just getting rid of basically anything that will make your computer think it's clickable. And the reason for that, simple, so that you can work on it, you can start researching it, Google it, whatever, and not worry about actually clicking on it and going to this malicious link. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. We're going to start diving into more, obviously. So there's phishing emails too. We're going to dive into that one. And we're just going to go through this learning playlist for a second because there's only like 6. But this is one of the most common ways. People don't realize there's anywhere from, so studies differ, but 70% to 90% of all hacks and cyber attacks occur this way, through email. Understand that, 70%, that's a huge amount. Even if they're low estimating, even if it's half of that, if it's 35%, that is a huge amount that we could eliminate if we just did proper email validation and understand how to look for them. Now, there is one more question on here, and it's just asking what is BEC, and it tells you right here, business email compromise. What this is, they just talk about it for a second, but all it is when someone gets a hold of an email address that's actually legit in your company, someone else's company, whatever, and they start requesting stuff from people through their email because you're going to trust it because it's from a coworker or something like that. That's all that is. So understand that, but I'm sure you already understand the concept. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We're going to keep doing this path because I think this is one of the most underrated paths because people think they already know it and they think, oh, that's easy. But it's not as easy as it looks, and you have to understand how to break down a malicious email and actually look at it. So I do think it's important. So hopefully you guys like it. If you did, like and subscribe. And hopefully you guys will see some new content coming soon because I'm collabing with somebody and it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thanks a lot.